Hey everybody, welcome back to Havoc Maker Studio. My name is John and I'm hoping you're having a great Wednesday. We are one day away from the Marine Corps birthday, hoorah, and 2 days away from Veterans Day. So we're going to try to get some paint streams going up live here on YouTube, not on Twitch, but here on YouTube, and get Instagram updated. If you haven't checked out the Instagram post, I've got my first Spectre Operations miniature painted, not based, but painted. It's up on Instagram, and it's just kind of a back into a flow of painting. I've had to take some time off for arthritis and whatnot. So it's great to be back to painting now. I can finish up some commissions. All right, that aside, let's talk about what's going on in the news right now. So Atomic Mass Games just recently dropped the Sabretooth Apex Predator information for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And though most of you have already watched some videos over it, or maybe you've already looked at the character card, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison and kind of do an analysis of the original Sabretooth that came out with the Wolverine a few years ago, or a year and a half ago or so, compared to the current one, and we'll just kind of come up with our own opinion if it is good, bad, or somewhere in between. And speaking of Atomic Mass Games, today they announced some very interesting information I was not expecting. I don't know if anybody was expecting, because they kept it pretty secret as far as I can tell. I mean, I've not had a word or a whisper, not even a suggestion of a salty rumor, nothing. I don't think anybody has. So kudos to them for keeping it in-house, or bad on me for not seeing the writing on the wall that maybe everybody else has seen. Regardless, next summer, 2023, they're going to be putting out Star Wars Shatterpoint. And we're going to watch their video and we're going to take a look at the contents of it and what that means, or what this game is going to be. Now, I've got to say, or at least reiterate, in the past, I have not been a big fan of the Star Wars IP in a miniature form. I'm generally not a big fan of the Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings miniature games. They just don't seem to really impress me. I don't know if it's the IP. I don't know if it's the way they play. I'm going to blame it on maybe the mechanics. I look over at how Fantasy Flight Games, who I've been very critical of with reason over the many years, their handling of everything from their collectible card and card dice games to their RPGs and their miniature games. They're the ones that had the initial license for Star Wars Legion, Star Wars X-Wing, and Star Wars Armada. And of course, I think it's Battlefront. No, Battlefront's the video game. Man, I totally forgot what the name of the other little scenario-driven 15 millimeter game was. Regardless, they had the Star Wars IP, and I think they pretty much mangled it, and enough that the IP changed hands. Now, some of the original staff from Fantasy Flight Games did come over, and they are working with members of the Atomic Mass Games staff to fix Star Wars Legion, Star Wars X-Wing. And I hate to say it, and I know there's people out there that are fans of it, but I don't think there's anything that you can do to fix Armada. Really, I think all the games just... I know some people have been critical of Atomic Mass Games' handling of certain rules. And yes, there's been some manufacturing issues, minor issues, and with it being such a young company, they address it, they fix it, everybody's happy. But we can't hold them responsible for the rules. And really, for them to do it their way, I mean, they've inherited this from Fantasy Flight Games. And it was already, all these games were already kind of a mess. Or in their second edition version, they became a mess. Or the third edition version, I think that's Armada, it's become a hot mess. And they've fixed it the best they could. And they've done a reasonably well done job. Man, some grammar Nazi is going to burn me down for that one. Star Wars X-Wing had kind of gotten some more popularity after that horrible second edition launch where he had to go out and rebuy everything. Armada there was a slight uptick and then it faded off again. Star Wars Legion, on the other hand, has seen a huge resurgence. And I think it's largely in part because it is probably the only other game out there besides Warhammer 40,000 that is a sci-fi game. Yes, we know that there's other ones out there from other companies like Warlord and Privateer Press and such, but nothing on kind of a large scale like the big battles that you get from Warhammer 40,000. And one of the big things about Star Wars is the big battles. So I think a lot of people have been burned out with Warhammer, and they've transitioned to over something that's familiar, that's relatively easy to play, and its buy-in is very small. Now, I know I'm getting away from the point of Star Wars Shatterpoint. We're getting there. I just want to say that overall, they've done a very good job. Still not enough to draw me in personally. I know some of you really, really enjoy all those games, and which is great. You keep on playing what you enjoy. I might finally get involved in Star Wars because of Shatterpoint. I don't think, like a lot of people think, it's going to be, well, there goes X-Wing, Legion. Nobody's going to play those again because of Shatterpoint. Come on, guys. That just means that there's going to be more people buying in and doing both games, more than likely. We've seen that with everybody that has their niche game that they enjoy. They stick with it. Sure, they'll dabble a little bit, but they're also going to play their other game. I don't think this is really going to pull away from the Legion fans. Maybe the Armada fans who are just fed up with Armada, and maybe some of the X-Wing. Who knows? I think if anybody's in danger, it could be some of a small percentage of the Marvel Crisis Protocol players or customers might flip-flop over and just focus on this, and you'll see why. Maybe because they're a bigger fan of Star Wars than they are of Marvel. And this might be a great thing for them to get involved in right at the start, depending on a number of things. So how about I just stop running my mouth and we press play? Let's just watch this video. All right. Okay, so I'm kind of impressed. Squad-based skirmish combat in the Star Wars galaxy. And it looks like that first box will be, and I'm just guessing here if we go by the box art, looks like Ventress versus Anakin, maybe. Who knows? We're gonna find out. Let's take a look at some of the before we get into the into the details of it. Actually, this is probably the starter box right here. The Mandalorians versus the Crimson Sons or whatever, Darth Maul's version of the Mandalorians at that time, and Ahsoka and Darth Maul. That is probably the starter box, what we saw right here. That's probably what we're going to get. All right. So far, these models look really good. They look true scale, 32 millimeter. There's Anakin and was it the 501? Am I getting that right? Members of the 501. That's probably Rex up there. Who knows? This could be fives, and that could be, I don't know, Sonar. I don't know. Maybe that's a GI Joe guy. I know somebody out there is probably screaming at me like, "No, John, that's not the name of one of the squad members." Then it looks like we got Obi-Wan Kenobi and some of his dudes. Obi-Wan looks pretty fierce. Um, and then looks like battle the destroy no not destroyers. I don't know. I'm going to call them the heavy battle droids and General Grievous, and they look amazing. And it looks like those I'm just going to call them heavy battle droids. Correct me in the comments below. I'm sure there's a Star Wars fan that's screaming at me, which cool. Looks like there's 2 to base, so that's kind of we'll get into that. I was kind of expecting something like that. Nice command. There's probably Commander Cody. Oh, am I right? Um, those 2 look really amazing. General Grievous on the right, if you're not familiar, and Obi-Wan Kenobi or General Kenobi. We have looks not Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku and his Super Saiyan cloak guys. I can't think. I know there's people going to be screaming at me after this video. I can't remember these 2 names, but Barris something and something with an apostrophe. God, I'm just going to stop trying to name these people. But they look pretty gosh darn amazing. Those are 2 very popular characters. It looks like we got Jango Fett, which is really cool. I'm digging it. And we got my girl Ventress. Oh man, super excited about Ventress. Oh, the hype is real. And Ahsoka and Ventress. I am super excited. Anakin, awesome. We like Anakin. This is, of course, before he goes all super youngling vaporizing. Looks like the like a commander droid and the regular battle droids all on a group base, which I like that concept. I think that's a very good idea, carried over from Marvel Crisis Protocol. So some really cool stuff there. I can't remember what these guys are called. I think that's Gar Saxon there, maybe. I might be getting my eras wrong. But overall, man, Ahsoka looks so good. Oh, man. This looks amazing. Now, let's get into some more hype. Let's read about this. So, today on November 9th, they announced that June of 2023, Shatterpoint will be released. And we're going to be seeing from some of the stuff they talked about on Facebook that we're going to be seeing more over the coming months. So I expect kind of like what they did with Marvel Crisis Protocol. They started revealing character information or character cards, how to play the game. We're going to get a pretty good build up. We won't have all the full details of how the game plays until we get a little bit closer to the release date, but we're going to get a pretty good picture. You know, we'll probably get, hey, these are the symbols for movement and health and, I don't know, force power. Who knows? We'll get different dice because we know that's going to be using proprietary dice like all their games right now. So we know here are the key features. Customize, create a Star Wars squad that is truly unique with beautifully sculpted and dynamic miniatures of identifiable Star Wars characters that are ideal for dedicated hobbyists and new painters alike. I agree 100%. Looking at those miniatures, they are the right size, which is looks to be 32 to about 35 millimeter. I'm going to say 32 millimeter to just be on the safe side. It's probably 35-ish. Probably the same size as Marvel Crisis Protocol, right? And they look good. I think that's the perfect size because it really gives you the ability to see the model really well. It looks real, if that makes sense, not like the super giant heroic scale that Games Workshop uses, and the same thing Privateer Press does, but it looks more dynamic, looks more real for being a sci-fi thing. that make sense? I hope so. All right. Strategize. The game's fun and flexible squad building experience invites players to create custom strike teams optimized to complete the various mission objectives. You can choose thematic squads straight from the Star Wars galaxy, like Ahsoka, Bo Katan, Kreese, Lord Maul, and his loyalist super commandos. Okay, there we go. Or you can mix match them so it's still sounding like Atomic Mass games. They're Marvel Crisis Protocol. And the battle is in the Shatterpoint game. Players use their character special abilities and diverse combat skills to control the flow of battles. They race against each other to complete dynamically evolving mission objectives. That's interesting. Dynamically evolving mission objectives. That's a very interesting choice of words. We're going to need to see more on that in the future. Here's what Will Schick has to say about it. The design and development of Star Wars Shatterpoint miniatures games is really our love letter to the excitement and energy of being a kid on Saturday mornings, which is something, now this is me saying this, that I got from the Marvel Crisis Protocol game, because it was just like being a kid again with those toys and the cartoons that we used to watch as kids. It just really felt like that, and that's why I like that game so much. He said, when we wanted to take all the great things about Star Wars, action, the adventure, iconic characters, and create a Star Wars miniature games experience that felt like it came straight out of the animated lineups of the 80s and 90s. I don't think he necessarily means 80s and 90s for all the Star Wars cartoons, because there's the better ones were in the 2000s. All right. So, but I think he means like the 80s and 90s, like He-Man, Black Star, G.I. Joe, that sort of thing. To say it was a dream come true to work with such a talented group of artists, sculptors, and our awesome team at Lucasfilm to create a new versions of the iconic Star Wars cast in this style would be a complete understatement, which I agree. Looking at what they provided us is really, I think, just absolutely amazing. They've really captured, I think, the animated universe for Star Wars, and really, and some of the prequels, and really brought it to life for us in a better way than what Fantasy Flight Games originally was trying to do with Legion. And boy, I still cannot think of the other game. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can see a bunch of the different products. Put it down in the comments, guys, if you know what it is. At any rate, I'm thinking that we're going to be seeing a lot more, just like they said. Well, I don't even think that they already said that we're going to be seeing more of this as we get closer to the date. So we are going to stay on top of this. Now that we're aware of this, we're going to go ahead and stretch our little weird Japanese anime manga tentacles out and try to reach out to our contacts and get some more information. I would like to know more, and I'm thinking you guys would too. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? I know the market is very saturated with skirmish games, and we talk about them a lot here. What's going through your heads? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Not necessarily rules wise, but is this more up your alley than, say, Legion or that other one? Not Shadow. Oh man, I almost had it. It was right there. Or is this just not your thing? Anyways, put those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, and I will chat with you later. See ya.